Imagine yourself trapped in the lower deck of a ship, engulfed in total darkness, with the stench of decaying fish and salt choking your breath. There is nothing to see, only the rhythmic crash of waves against the silent timber and the low, broken moans of women shackled in iron beside you. Just 6 days ago, you were in a sacred place within the walls of the Lindisfarne monastery, praying in peace and tranquility. You believed that faith was your shield, but that shield shattered when the Northmen arrived with the morning mist. They butchered the monks atop the very altars where prayers had echoed for generations, cutting throats as pleas for mercy filled the air, plundering gold, torching sacred manuscripts. But with you, their choice was different. They spared your life. They bound you in iron, hauled you across the sand, tore away your habit before all eyes to assess your youth and strength. You are 15 years old, and only now do you learn that in the lands of the North there exists a particular class of captive. It is called Friller Christina, a Christian prisoner, preferably a nun, preferably untouched, because to the Vikings there was no triumph greater than turning women sworn to Christ into permanent possessions. The ship turns northward. Norway lies 3 weeks away by sea. And what awaits you there? The church would spend centuries trying to erase it from record. This is the account of the 23 nuns taken at Lindisfarne in the year 793, the event that marked the dawn of the Viking Age. And the most harrowing truth is not what was done to them. It is that no one intervened. Not kings, not bishops, not even the families who entrusted them to the monastery, believing faith would shield them. Everyone knew the fate of captives. Everyone remained silent. If this story seizes you, pause for a moment and show support. It takes only an instant and allows Dark Chronicler to continue bringing forward voices history tried to bury. But before understanding what the Vikings inflicted upon these women, you must first grasp what was taken from them that morning. June 8th, 793 AD. First light. The island of Lindisfarne rests off the coast of Northumbria, England. It stands among the most sacred locations in Christian Europe, guardian of the relics of Saint Cuthbert, a place where monks had prayed and copied holy texts for more than 150 years. The monastery housed 47 monks, 23 nuns, and treasures amassed over generations: golden chalices, silver crosses, illuminated manuscripts bound in jewel-studded covers, reliquaries holding the remains of saints. Rumors had circulated of northern raiders striking coastal settlements, but Lindisfarne was holy ground, believed to be under divine protection. That morning, the fog lay heavy. The tower watch saw nothing until the moment passed. 30 ships, dragon prows carved in wood, slid from the gray veil like specters. When the bells finally rang, the Vikings were already ashore. There were no demands, no negotiations, no hesitation, only violence. The first monks who approached the shore, believing traitors had arrived, died with open hands raised in greeting. Axes shattered bone before understanding could form. The raiders moved with chilling precision. This was not their first assault. They knew their targets. Some stormed the church, others the treasury, others the dormitories. Those who resisted were cut down. Those who fled were hunted through cloisters. Those who hid were dragged into the open and slain. Abbot Oldwin was discovered kneeling in prayer at the altar. He was beheaded where he knelt, blood staining the stones where he had celebrated Mass for 3 decades. The attack lasted less than 4 hours. By midday, silence fell. 47 monks lay dead. Not one survived. The nuns, however, still breathed, and that was when their true ordeal began. The Vikings did not seize women at random. There was method. To understand why nuns were singled out, one must understand Norse society in the 8th century. Scandinavian women possessed more legal rights than many elsewhere in Europe. They could inherit, divorce, trade, but slavery was a defined institution with strict classifications. Ordinary thralls labored in fields or homes. Above them were ambat, female slaves who also served as concubines. Most prized of all were Friller Christina, Christian captives, especially nuns. The reasons were twofold. First, spiritual humiliation. Pagan Norse worshippers of Odin and Thor took particular satisfaction in defiling what Christians held sacred. A nun's vow of chastity was an offering to Christ. To claim her as property was an act of religious dominance, proof, so they believed, that their gods prevailed. Second, economic utility. Nuns were educated, rare in that era. They read and wrote Latin, sometimes Greek. They understood medicine, weaving, record-keeping. As slaves, they were valuable in many ways. On the sands of Lindisfarne, as smoke rose from the ruins, the selection began. The nuns were stripped and inspected like animals, teeth checked, skin examined, ages guessed. Abbess Freda, aged 52, was judged too old. Her life ended there. The remaining women were sorted. The youngest and physically most desirable, about 8, were chosen for what the Vikings called blood marriage. The others were assigned as domestic ambat. One novice named Hildur, in a fragmented 9th century source, was only 15. She was among the 8 selected. None understood what that meant. They soon would. The 3-week voyage north was not merely transport, it was psychological demoralization. The captives were chained in the holds, dark, damp, reeking of salt and decay. They were fed scraps. They relieved themselves where they sat. There was no privacy, no dignity. This was deliberate erosion of identity. Warriors came not to touch them yet, but to degrade them. They forced blasphemies, cut their hair, poured strong ale down their throats, mocked their vows. They made them witness pagan sacrifices, blood cast over wooden idols of Thor and Freya. Every act reinforced the same message. Their God had not protected them. Their vows were meaningless. Modern psychology calls this learned helplessness. First, resistance, then realization, then surrender. Not from weakness, but survival. By the time Norway's coast appeared, most had already yielded internally. When the ships landed near what is now Hordaland, the captives were taken to thrall houses, wooden structures used to process slaves. They were washed, examined, categorized. The youngest were prepared for ritual blood marriage, a ceremony recorded obliquely in Icelandic sagas. During blot festivals, captives were brought to stone altars. The ritual was public, symbolic, and irreversible. When it ended, the captive belonged entirely to her captor. Life afterward followed a grim pattern. She lived within the household, worked constantly, bore children. Birth offered no respite. Infant's fate depended on the master's will. Many women died young. Injuries lingered untreated. Pain became permanent. But beyond physical suffering was spiritual erosion. The captor sought not only obedience, but conversion, forced participation in pagan rites, mockery of Christ. Relentless pressure wore down resistance. Some clung to faith in secret. Others broke. Fragments remain. A nun called Egith, likely Hildur, bore 7 children. Only 2 lived. She died at 34. Her master, converted years later, buried her with a small wooden cross she had hidden. Some captives attempted escape through death. Vikings responded with surveillance and punishment. The historical record is incomplete. Chronicles mention the raid, but omit the women. Later sagas speak of Christian slaves who could read Latin, who influenced households quietly. Were these the nuns of Lindisfarne? We cannot know for certain.
What is certain is repetition. Iona, Kildare, monasteries across Europe, the pattern endured for centuries. And the final irony remains. These women, enslaved to humiliate Christianity, may have carried it into Scandinavia itself. Through mothers, concubines, whispered prayers, the faith endured. By the 12th century, paganism had vanished. In 2015, archaeologists uncovered a grave in the Orkney Islands, a woman buried with both a crucifix and Thor's hammer. Isotope analysis traced her childhood to the British Isles. Her bones bore signs of repeated trauma and childbirth. She lived and died between worlds. The nuns of Lindisfarne have no memorials, no feast days. Their names are lost. But their lives mattered. Their endurance mattered.